Hey everyone, it's Tyler. Today I just want to talk to you about time value money, or you might hear them TVM calculations. It's how I figure out my retirement ones. If you see my retirement video, it's how you can figure out what your payments will be for a car or house, how much you need to save for retirement, how much you'll have at retirement, all those fun things. So I'm hoping I'll be able to show you that today so you can run these calculations for yourself. Again, it can help you figure out a lot of things, and if you feel like this video is helpful, I'd really appreciate it if you liked and subscribed. So let's get into the time value money calculations, or TVM calculations for short. There'll be 5 inputs that you can put in. You'll need to put in 4 of them to get the 5th input. For example, in my retirement video, I put in 4 of the 5 needed, and the 5th one is your future value, how much you'll have at retirement. And you can do future value, you can calculate your payments, you can calculate all sorts of things, so it's really helpful. So I'll go over each of them, what the abbreviation is, and how you can use them. I'll also be going over some examples with each of these, so if the explanation you still don't quite have it, that's fine. We'll go over some examples of how you can use that as well. So first, present value, or PV for short. This is the amount that you already have, that you begin with. So whether that's because you already started a retirement account and you have some money in there, it could be you just took out a car loan or a mortgage, and so that's money coming in to you. It's just the amount you start with, whether that's because you've invested it or you're taking that money out and you have that as a loan. That can be either of those. Again, these are in no particular order. You might have an app or a program or something that lists them in a different order. The order doesn't matter, so don't worry about that. Next, we have your payments, or it's usually shortened to PMT. These are your monthly payments, whether you're paying it into a retirement account, whether you're paying off a car mortgage. And if you want to get a little more complicated, these actually can be payments coming to you depending on the type of investment you make. But we'll keep it simple. So for the most part, these are payments that you're either paying something off or paying into like a retirement account. Next, we've got your future value, or FV, which is, one that everyone's really excited about. This is the money that you'll have in the future. So again, a retirement account, if you have XYZ, your future value will be how much you have at the end. Again, skipping ahead a little bit, if you have your present value, which we've talked about, whether you have some money in there or no money at all, then you've got your payments that you're putting in every month. Then we'll go over your rate, and then how long you're doing it for. So if you have those 4 things, you can get the 5th thing, which is your future value. Again, if you want to get more complicated, your future value can also be 0. The reason you want to have 0 is if you take out a loan, at some point you want to owe nothing on that loan anymore. So you can put a 0 to see what your payments are going to be for that loan. Next, we have your rate, your interest rate. And that can be, again, I've said before in my previous videos, the average market return is about 8%, so you'd put an 8%. If you take out a loan, you get a car loan for 4%, you'd put that 4% there to calculate your payments or how long it would take you to pay it off, or any of those things. So that's just your rate, whether it's through a loan or an investment, savings account, bonds, whatever, that kind of thing. And finally, we have the number of periods, or sometimes it's just shortened to periods, or NPER for number of periods. That's just how long are you going to be investing for, how long are you paying it off. If you get a car loan for 48 months, for 4 years, that's what your number of periods is going to be. It's going to be 4 years or 48 months, depending on how we're compounding, and I'll go over that in a second. Same with if you're investing. Say you want to invest for 10 years or 120 months, depending on how often you're putting your money in. So that's just how long is this transaction going to go on for. So as I talked about, there's the number of compounding. That means if you have a mortgage payment, you're probably paying it off every single month and not one lump sum in a year. Same with investing. You could be investing one lump sum a year, but you're probably putting in a little bit every month. And so that means if you have, again, on a mortgage, we'll say you have a 4% mortgage, that means in your calculation, you're not going to put 4% if you're paying it off every month. You're going to divide 4% by 12. So because that's a yearly percentage, you want to get a monthly percentage because, again, you're making monthly payments. And again, I'll go over this once we get some examples done. And some of the apps, like I use one on my computer quite often. I have a little finance calculator that I use, but I'm usually on my computer when I want to know this stuff, so it's really easy just to pop open a new tab and do that. And I'll let you guys know the website that I use, but for mine it'll say, hey, annual rate, and you put in the annual rate, and then you'll click, is this a monthly transaction, yearly, quarterly? So it'll actually do it for you, which is really nice. But those are what we have our present value, which again is your current value, your present value, how much you have in there or how much you're getting a loan for. Then you have your payments. How much are you paying into it usually, or again, in harder, or not hard situations, more complicated situations, you might be getting paid back into. You have your future value. How much is this going to be worth in the future? Is it going to be zero because I want to pay off this loan? Or is it going to be, hopefully a retirement account, so hopefully not zero, right? You have your interest rate, which again, usually interest rates are given in yearly amounts. So you want to make sure that you divide that by 12 if you're paying every month, maybe to pay it quarterly. So that's 4 times a year. You want to divide that by 4, just to make sure that as often as you're paying it is what the interest rate is. And again, we'll go over some examples. And then lastly is the number of periods. How long are you doing this for? Is it a 4-year car loan, 48 months? Are you going to be retiring in 30 years, or however long it's going to be? So with that said, let's go over some examples now. All right, everyone. So I said I would show you the time value money calculator I use. Again, you can use the computer, you can use as a financial calculator, you can actually even use Excel. But I think showing the computer would be the easiest, for everyone. I'm usually on my computer, and so it's easy for me just to type it in. It's actually what I use the most. Second is probably Excel, and third is actually probably the financial calculator. I really only use this for when I have to go in and take exams and such, because I obviously can't bring my laptop with me. It's just, I'm already on my computer usually for these things as I'm researching something. So it's right there, and it's really easy for me to use. If you want me to show you how to use those other things, I'm happy to show you, but let's just start with Google for now. So I type in Tvm Calculator, I hit enter, and then when I use, it's www.fncalculator.com, and the little tagline is just TVM Calculator, financial calculations, or excuse me, financial calculators. And I'm sure if you used a different site, it's going to be fine, right? There's tons of time value money. I'm just letting you know the one I use if you want to follow along with me. So when you click on that, it's going to show you present value, payments, future value, annual rate, periods, and then again, mine has that compounding because it does that math for you. So I'll show you how to solve for each one of them, but let's start with a retirement account or investment account, whatever you want to have it be. We want to solve for the present value. So if you say, I want to be putting this much in for this long, at this rate, and have X amount in the future, how much do I need to put away right now? So we're going to skip the present value, and we're going to go to payments. And let's say you can put in $150 a month. And we're actually going to put that in as a negative amount. The reason being is that it's going out of your pocket into the investment account. So you're losing the $150, and it's not really losing, right? It's just that you're giving up that money now for money later. The same would be as if you just deposited a lump sum into an investment account. It would be a negative amount you would put it in. This can be a different amount. If, present value, if you take out a car loan for $5,000, that's going to be a positive $5,000 because it's coming into your pocket. So just imagine if you're taking money and putting it somewhere else that you don't have access to, then it's a negative amount. If someone paying you, as in like a loan, then that's a positive amount. And hopefully you'll get some of that sense as we go through this. So we'll put the payment as $150. So again, that's a negative $150 because it's leaving your pocket. We'll have the future value. We'll say we want $15,000 in the future. And again, this is a positive amount because at the end of that period, that's your $15,000 to do whatever you want with it. We'll have the annual rate at 8%. Again, if you want to be a little more conservative, you can do 6 to 7%. If you want to be a little more optimistic, you could do something like 9. 10 would be, I think, pretty optimistic. And this 8%, if you do it to a T, doesn't mean that this is going to be exactly what happens because no one knows exactly what the stock market is going to do. The 8% is just close to an average so that hopefully it'll be really close to what you've planned out. And then periods, let's say 60 months. Let's say 5 years from now, you want that $15,000. And again, mine has compounding, so I'm doing monthly, meaning that annual rate is just 8% and then it divides it for me. If you don't have something like this, you need to personally divide that 8 by 12 and put that percentage in because, again, we're doing it monthly. So to go over the numbers again, we have payments, negative $150, future value, $15,000, annual rate is 8%, and periods is 60 because we're doing it for 60 months. And now you'll just hit your present value, and I have negative $2,670.39. And that means to have $15,000 in 60 months at a rate of 8%, when you're putting in $150 a month, today, if you started today, you'd have to deposit that $2,670.39. So again, that's just deposit. If you deposit that amount, make these payments for 60 months, you'll have that $15,000. Again, if you did this to a T, it'll probably be slightly different because even if 8% is the average, you might have a really good, 5 years, and it might be 9 to 10% average for you. Or it might not be as great, and you might have 6 to 7%. It's just, this will hopefully be close for you. So let's use kind of the same example. Let's say that you have, so you can keep all the numbers. Let's say you only have $1,000 to put in today. So we're going to do negative 1,000. And then if you click on your payment button, again, we're keeping the same thing. You said, oh shoot, I don't have that much. Maybe I could put in more every month. So now you'll click the payment button. And I have negative 183.87. So that says, okay, we're keeping everything the same, but you can't afford to put in as much right now. Well, that just means instead of 150 every month, you have to put in 183.87. So it's really cool. I hope you can see as we start to go through some of these examples that if you can master this time value money, then you can kind of create your future and say, hey, I don't have the money now, but I can deposit it later. Or I have some money now, I don't have a ton of income, but I've been saving for a long time, then you can invest that much. And we'll keep going through these. So again, going to future value. So future value is the one we solve for. So say we have that 183 payment. Let's change the payment back to 150. Say 150 is the max you can afford, and 1,000 is the max you can put in right now. Well, if we hit that future value button, now you'll have $12,511.37. So that's saying, hey, I really only have $1,000 put in, and I know 187 isn't that much more, but I only have 150. Well, it says, okay, well, that means you're only going to have $12,511.37 then. So you can be able to see your future value if you put in what you have now and what you're able to put in the future. With that said, there's then the annual rate. So if we change our future value back to 15,000, say, well, I'm just curious, right? Let's say I still wanted 15,000 as my future value. If you click on the rate button, that is odd. Mine is not working right now for some reason. Okay, well, hopefully yours is working. I'm not sure why mine isn't working. But what the rate button will say is, hey, you can get this amount if you were to get a 9% return, 10% return, whatever. Hopefully I can get this to work. I'm not sure why. That is the other thing is Excel, I feel like usually works more of the time, but it's harder to pull up. But anyway, that'll be the rate that you say. Say I want to put in this much now, I want to make these many payments, and I want to have a future value of this much. Well, then you need to find something that has a return of 10% or 9% or whatever it is. Sorry, I'm just curious why that isn't coming up right. But anyway, that's how that one's supposed to work, right? Well, let's put 8% back in there. Let's change our future value again to that 15,000, and the last one here is periods. So you say, hey, I want to stick with 8%. If that's the average, I want to stick with that. I can only put in $1,000 now for present value. Payments, I want to be 150. I want that future value of 15,000. I can afford to wait a little longer. So if you hit that periods button, mine now pops up at 70.33. So that means that, sure, you won't be able to do it in 60 months, but you can do it in 70 months. If you say, well, you know what, I've got some time. How long would it take for me to do that? So these were some really easy calculations here. Very small, I should say. Maybe not easy, but small. So if you want to do something as big as, say, $1 million, I want to have $1 million when I retire. I can afford to put $200 away every month, and I can afford to put $1,000 every now. That's when you can hit the periods button and say, okay, well, that's 527 months. You do 527 divided by 12, and that's just about 44 years. And if you started today, you did all this, you'd have $1 million in 44 years. Again, give or take. You might have a little bit more than that. You might have a little bit less. I can't predict the stock market and exactly what will happen with that. So I hope this was able to help you guys out. It's something that I use a lot to be able to predict things. Again, how fast you can pay off your mortgage normally or with adding payments, what you can expect to have at retirement, as well as, I remember that rate percent wasn't working earlier. For some reason, if you change it down, if you change it from 150 to that 200, again, just to give you the numbers again, I have present value 1,000, payments 200, again, negative 1,000, negative 200, future value 15,000, leaving the annual percent rate blank, 60 periods, and you click rate, it'll then pop up with 5.279. Again, that's my annual rate. Yours might pop up as a monthly rate, which you then have to multiply by 12. So I'm not sure why it didn't pop up with the other one, but to give you an example, the annual rate, again, just means, hey, if I were to deposit $1,000 right now, make $200 payments for 60 months, and I want a future value of $15,000, you'd only need to invest it in something that gives you at least 5.279%. So there's that example there. But anyway, I hope this helped you out. If you have any comments, questions, whatever, leave them down in the description below. Any future videos you'd like to see. Time value money is something that I personally love, and I think it really can help out a lot. Thanks, guys.